All rise. Commissioner Notstein, if you do this in a prayer, pledge.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the emergency medical services that you have placed here on earth. We are thankful for their abilities, knowledge, and expertise in treating those who are ill or injured, providing life-saving aid. We ask that you continue to cover and bless them because at times their jobs can be very challenging, risky, and demanding. Lord, give them strength and courage in your name. Help them not to be frightened or dismayed because you are with them wherever they go. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These proceedings are being recorded for the sole purpose of preparing accurate written minutes. Recordings are overwritten following approval of the minutes, eliminating all unofficial records of these proceedings. Agenda number 25-222, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting held May 1st, 2025.
Motion approved. Second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
abstain since I was absent.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes. Are there any guests here concerning county business?
Nonprofit environmental group focusing on Carlin County. Last month at our request, you sent a letter to the governor asking for 3 actions on the issue of sewage sludge. I'm sure you were the first county in the state to do so. State of Carbon County has sent your letter to the other 66 counties in Pennsylvania and asked them to take the same action and follow your lead. If they do not, at least your letter has brought that issue to their attention. As Robert Kennedy Jr. recently said, do you want to eat food raised in sewage sludge? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Good for hearing.
Want to skip over the proclamation?
No, we'll do,
Proclamation first, that's right. I'm
you want to
sorry.
do the proclamation now, or
Yeah.
yeah, that's on the agenda, so
Right.
I don't think there's anyone here from the emergency.
No,
And you don't think they were coming, Wayne, or not, or?
I thought they'd be here, or at least one of them, but
Would you like to move it to the end of the meeting and
just in case.
just in case they show up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In case they do, they
Okay,
may be tied up on calls, so,
okay.
you know.
The next, we have Pocono Mountain Vacation Bureau here. I know they'd like to give us a presentation. So Chris Barrett is with us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have a seat.
On my own now.
Remember that chair as a poser in it? Give you 3 minutes now.
Okay, time's up. Took too long. Thank you.
I was
Just
told,
being important to see if you can work under pressure.
I was told I had 2 minutes, not 2 seconds. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We're grateful for the time. We're always grateful for your communication and allowing us to come in. And I would like to do 2 things, if I may, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, is we're going to provide you with our Board of Directors report so that you could take a look at it at your leisure, because I know your time is really valuable. I just want to, and we also did just send you our audit. So I just wanted to assure you that we're in a good financial position, and that we did have a clean audit. There were no issues related to that audit, which we were very, very thankful for. And from a revenue standpoint, we were very, very close to the previous year. Carbon County did incredibly well with the hotel tax, which we're grateful for. So all in all, we had a fairly good year as compared to 23 and 22, and we continue to keep the momentum that we kind of attained after COVID, which is good. So we're going to leave this with you to take a look at, and also we're going to provide you something else. Can I have the second? Thank you. So I did want to prepare we prepared two other short things for you to take a look at, and I'll go through these really quickly. And again, we'll leave you with these as well. That's all right. I know stuff when you're balancing Zoom against that too, so thank you for doing that. Thank you. Okay. So I wanted to just kind of prepare a report as to what we've done over the last year in just Carbon County alone, because it's really critical. And just a couple of facts. And again, we will provide you with all these slides. But I think it's important to note that overall carbon contributes 12% of the visitation to the destination, which we estimate is 3.6 million people. But there's some numbers there that I think are pretty critical. So guest spending, it's up 32% since 19. So guests coming here from New York and Philadelphia are leaving behind about $600 million in direct spend. So 50% of the folks come from the New York DMA and 25% from Philadelphia. So those are absolutely outside dollars. The industry employs 4,735 people. The labor income is 134 million. And the total economy of visitor spend plus direct and indirect is about 853 million just to this county alone. We support that and hopefully continue to drive those 3.6 million a year folks with 1.2 million in media spent by the PMVB. But I think one of the most critical points in this is that the direct local tax benefit is 50 million from the 853 million direct and indirect spend. So we wanted to highlight that. Just a couple of other things that we love being involved in this county. And we love talking to you guys too, because you have great ideas of ways that we can absolutely be better involved, which we like to do. So we operate the Visitor Center, which services 400,000 guests a year. That's a $324,000 expense. But more importantly, we act as an advertising agency and advocacy service for our 127 members who are just in this county. We have about 600 members total, and that's the number that's here. Water safety PSAs, which we think are really important. We're actually changing those for next year. As a result, Jerry McAvoy talked to us about that very, very recently to ensure that the millions of folks who are visiting us are using our waterways safely. That's important. Also, two programs, a community grant program, which we've undertaken over the last 3 years, puts about 55,000 back directly into nonprofit organizations within the county. To your idea of the line painting for all of our boroughs here, we're looking at that. That was a great idea. That would come out of the community grant program. The hotel tax grants, which the tax board of the county is involved in, returns another 186,000. Support directly for Jim Thorpe programming, which includes paying for police overtime and our porta potties. I always want to say restrooms, guest restrooms, is another 62,000. Also, too, this kind of next part really is exciting for me is the development of industry and product in Carbon County. And I have something I want to talk to you a little bit about. Lansford, we're working on. Also, Weissport and Lehighton, because what we want to try to do is we know a lot of people are visiting Jim Thorpe. So how do we do two things? How do we get them to visit Jim Thorpe, move to other parts of the county to develop those tourism products, and also to take a little bit of burden off Jim Thorpe and develop those other products and keep the people in the market for a longer period of time so that they spend more. So we're kind of working on something there. Workforce and affordable housing recruitment, we've invested $250,000 in that the last 2.5 years. We're working on a project in Stroudsburg to redevelop an old hotel. I'm keeping my fingers and toes crossed if that one works, that developers willing to look at any affordable and workforce housing project in any of our other 3 counties. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on that. Anti-littering efforts, we've picked up 50,000 bags of trash from all of our roadways in all 4 counties since 2018 and collected over 3,000 tires. Obviously, it's a curb appeal issue, number one, but number two, we don't want all that trash in our environment. And I think we can all guess what that does. So we're supporting that. So this is one of the things I really wanted to talk about. We've been talking to some of the folks in Lansford about starting to develop some tourism product there. we want to also talk to Weisport. We want to talk to Lehighton. We've had some preliminary conversations, and Weisport, as I mentioned, and also Nescahoning with the new train station that's there with the Reading and Northern. And the folks there asked us to take a look at what we can do to have tourism be a little bit more viable there. And the first piece was that we suggested that they bring together all of their historic assets. There's a number of historic assets in the town that we think would be really interesting in tying to Jim Thorpe, which say the Molly story, how this county was really integral in industrialization, not only our country, but the world at one time, right? With Asa Packard, we all know the story. We think that would be pretty interesting to folks in New York and New Jersey. So we want to try to help them build some type of tourism program and tours. And then also too, they're looking at redeveloping the train station, the Lehigh and New Jersey. Is that Lehigh, New Jersey, right? Lehigh, New Jersey train station. Can we talk to Reading and Northern maybe about partnering with that too and extend some of those excursions to move some folks around? So if they would go to say Tamaqua, or they would go to Nescahoning, or they're going to Pittston, wherever they're going, keep them in the market for a longer period of time and try to help redevelop both of those towns. So it's all about economic and product development. So what I wanted to kind of just show you is some of the things that we're looking at. We had a meeting with them this week, and we talked about the packaging of the historic assets, and we talked to the folks at their the Historical Society, but also didn't realize that Frank Sinatra spent a lot of time there with the Dorsey brothers, and there's a lot of storytelling I think that we could do there. So we're going to continue those conversations and kind of establish a timeline and use that as a template that hopefully we can replicate elsewhere within the county and try to continue the successes we've been seeing with Jim Thorpe, which are really, really strong. So I think I went 3.5 minutes. And we do have also too for the fentanyl program. I have something to give you too on that.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention something about that too. I think like a lot of people are skeptical where the money is going, and it's going to the right place. And I always thanked you for what's been here with our fentanyl campaign. And I think the community should know that our commercials, you did the production free. You've done designs of our billboards for free and setting things up, and we're actually working on something right now. So Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau is very community minded, and I want to thank you for what you have done for the county. I mean, our campaign that's getting out there, a lot of people, and I had different ideas, and my ideas were carpenter ideas, and you brought advertising ideas that gets, that gets the eye of the public. And I just want to thank you for that, for what you have done for our fentanyl campaign.
Thank you. I think when you talk to the real people who are involved, it brings the story home for you, so that's like the least we can do is kind of use our tools to make sure that people understand what it really means and how it affects people's lives. So people were really brave in doing those testimonials. I'm glad we were able to help. And we do have another one here, which I'll leave with you, Rocky, and you guys to just take a look at, but you had asked for the secondary program, so we'll just leave that with you.
Okay.
So I know you all are very, very busy, and you're always really gracious with your time, which we appreciate. So I just want to kind of truncate the presentation because I know you have a really large agenda. And if there any questions we can answer.
The only thing I would say,
Sure.
because I saw Amy when you had mentioned about line painting, her eyebrows went up. And what needs to be explained there is, obviously we sit down at times and hear from Pocono Mountain Vacation Bureau. And one of the things that I brought up was that when the people see tourism, they say, well, what's the benefits of tourism? What are we getting out of it? What does Pocono Mountain? I mean, you hear all this, but what's there? And I know from being in local government, simple little things like getting every like streetscape, making all our streets look clean, making them look presentable. So what we brought up is that could they look at possibly going around to all the downtown businesses in downtown districts in the county, every borough, and just paint the crosswalks and paint the parking spots, or maybe present some benches in the area that people can sit on. So that when people are in town and they say, well, we're paying for this and paying for that, this is something that's coming back that benefits not only the local people that live here, but those who are also visiting. So it was something that Chris had taken on as to look into and get some more facts and see if we can do it. It was just a way to try to spread it around the entire county because all too often that doesn't happen. And Chris is working on that. The other thing I wanted to say to Chris, and I thank him for this, is you often hear about benefits coming back, and Chris had touched on the impact grants. He had touched on hotel tax. And I just kind of took, because everybody, when you talk about tourism, always brings up Jim Thorpe. And we're trying to get that around the county so everybody shares in that wealth. But when I went through and just did grants that not only went to just to the borough, but there were businesses within the borough that have been helped, Old Jail, there's a list in that, and you take a look at all that impact. And I just went back, and it's all public record, so it's not there. But I looked at how much was given back just in Jim Thorpe itself. And from last year in April to this year, there were a little over $140,000 was invested. So when people, if you break that down in real down numbers, that's like $12,000 a month is coming back to a small borough that's helping not only the borough, but also helping the businesses and support some of that. And that don't include what gets sent out in advertisement and promotion and support and things that happen in the county. That's just what has been given out to, I know they've given Lehighton Ambulance $8,400 last year and this year that help with fall foliage. Now that obviously gets listed as it's going to Lehighton, but let's tell the truth. They come up here and handle all the fall foliage. So there's a lot that goes out, not to mention the other areas. So, we are very thankful for what they're doing and what's coming back, so.
Yes, I'd like to echo what both of our fellow commissioners have said, and since I was here a few years longer. We won't go into how much longer.
He was here when the canals were still running.
I have seen the big difference in the cooperation and the help you have given the communities and the county in bringing tourism here, improving it. A lot of people complain about tourism and that, and even the fees in the parking lot, but we were adamant from day one with the funding from the parking lot. We would not use any money except for, train station maintenance, parking maintenance, plowing, buying a truck to plow and different things, paving our other parking lots, et cetera. But things have gone so well that, we're taking $1 million out of the parking lot fund this year to help offset the budget deficit that we have. And this is something we'll probably be able to do, maybe not that amount in the years coming, but it makes a big financial impact, not only to Jim Thorpe, but also to every taxpayer in Carbon County. That's, about $750,000 that we are taking in, plus what the businesses get likewise. So I applaud you for all that, the litter stuff, and it's a shame the people disrespect the environment like they do around here, and I think they should be jailed, not just fined, jailed, and maybe 100 hours of litter pickup. It's just disgusting. One thing I do have a major complaint with the Pocono Mountain Vacation Bureau. Well, I'm not gonna make it all good. I have a complaint. Sold one of our key employees from the chamber and Lehigh Valley Chamber and the Economic Development when you took Marlin from us. So I have a problem with that. But I know she's a big asset. She was
Oh, my God, yes.
to her, and we're happy for her promotion and her job she continues to do for the county through the Pocono Mountain Vacation Bureau. So she's always out there. We got her on our speed dial. She's always there, but I'll get over it one of these days, That's all I have. Thanks, Chris. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Mr.
Marvin.
Any questions? Any questions in the back? Very good. Chris, thank you always for your time. We know you're just as busy as we are. You have to deal with 5 counties.
Oh, we only have one. It's
One?
called Carbon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll send all these PowerPoints so that you have them. And of course, if you have any questions, and I'll send you another spreadsheet too. That'll kind of push this all together for you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your time. I'm grateful. We're all grateful.
All right. Good.
Department reports,
Oh,
agenda.
Report of executive sessions,
Sorry,
there were none.
sorry.
That's okay. Ellie's watching somewhere.
Yeah.
Go ahead now.
Department reports, agenda number 25-224, budget transfers.
Motion approved.
Second?
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes.
Agenda number 25-225, supplemental appropriations.
Motion approved.
Second?
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes.
Agenda number 25-226, expenditures payroll dated April 17, 2025.
Motion to ratify.
Second?
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes.
Agenda number 25-227, payroll dated May 2nd, 2025.
Motion to ratify.
Second, I didn't want to get greedy.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes, didn't bother you last week.
Agenda number 25-228, expenditures through the general fund dated May 8th, 2025.
Motion to ratify.
Second?
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes.
Agenda number 25-229, expenditures through the general fund dated May 15, 2025.
Motion approved.
Second?
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes.
Treasurer's report, there are two. Agenda number 25-230.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes.
Personnel report, agenda number 25-231, county departments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
I will be voting yes, but abstaining on one due to he being my nephew.
Agenda number 25-232, acknowledgements for courts and row offices.
Motion approved.
Second?
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes.
And then we have correspondence as listed. Copies will be provided to the press upon request. Advertising request, agenda number 25-233, meeting for the Carbon County Planning Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes.
Bid awards for agenda number 25-234, food service at the Carbon County Correctional Facility.
Motion for approval.
Second, with a little discussion, I just want to explain this a little bit so everybody's not confused. We did get two proposals. One was from Aramark and the other one was Trinity. The county specifications were 2,800 calories per day with a total of 164,250 meals a year for a contract year requested for 3 years. The original proposal was, from Aramark was $1,548,220.50. And Trinity was $1,486,134. The difference, was Trinity was lower, with the lowest bid of $62,086.50. In addition to that, we got proposals or presentations of that, for, scale pricing. And that's what we were sort of looking for with scale pricing, because scale pricing, as the inmate count goes up, the more they serve, the price per meal comes down. So what it winds up, if currently right now we have 150 inmates, it would come out for the 3-year contract for that amount, what Aramark has. But Trinity's, because of they did their pricing a little bit different, they lowered it. Theirs came to $313,835.75. So they were actually the lowest bid for over 3 years by $235,384.75. So with the increase, if our prison would go up to the capacity, just say they'd go up to 200 inmates, we would be saving $266,304. So that scale pricing was very important. And I know there was things that the Trinity was here before and the food wasn't the greatest, but over the years, we've been changing the calorie count and that it's up to the calorie count. So hopefully we're on the way to saving money and getting better food in the facility. So I want to thank everybody that looked at this and I explained it to them and it works out. So, we are actually saving money and that's what the board's here to save money.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yes.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
And yeah, I just like, I say yes also, but to the fellow commissioners, it was a big lift and some savings here, lots of savings. So thank you everyone for working together. And Bob, thank you for all your advice along the way. You're welcome.
Agenda number 25-235, Carbon County Whole Home Repair Program.
Motion approved.
Second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes,
Boards and authorities, agenda number 25-236, Agricultural Preservation Reappointment.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yeah.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
yes,
Redevelopment Authority, agenda number 25-237, reappointment.
Motion approved.
Second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
yes,
Open Space Advisory Board, agenda number 25-238, reappointments.
Motion approved.
Second,
Mr. Arner?
Um,
Oh.
I'm saying yes to Sarah Holland, but no to Catherine Kunkel, our confirm.
yes to both.
Yes to both. Mr. Notstein, yes to both. Mr. Sefranco?
I will simply state that we received a letter from the Open Space Advisory Board recommending the appointment of both these individuals back. So following the advice of the Open Space Board, I will be saying yes to both.
Communications 911, agenda number 25-239, renewal service maintenance agreement for Eaton.
Motion approve and execute.
Second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes.
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes,
County Buildings and Grounds, agenda number 25-240, quotes for cameras.
Motion to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is not costing the county anything. It's coming out of our safety grant, which we get money for doing our safety committees every month. So, and Lisa takes care of that. So thank you, Lisa, for keeping me together on that.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes, and it will provide a lot of, security, increase our security, and a lot of times we get lawsuits over falls and that, and, a lot of times we feel it is not our fault. You know, the visitors right away, they see deep pockets and that, so it's gonna help us. If we have to go to court in a lot of these cases, so, the cost of this, even though it's coming out of the grant, from a grant fund, it will save us additional funds in long term, I feel.
Mr. Sefranco?
yes,
Agenda number 25-241, P-Core Loss Prevention Grants.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes,
Mr. Sefranco?
yes,
Human Services, agenda number 25-242, revised state food expense and data.
Motion accept.
second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes,
Mr. Sefranco?
yes,
Agenda number 25-243, state food expense and data.
Motion accept.
second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes,
Mr. Sefranco?
yes,
Planning and Development, agenda number 25-244, Farmland Preservation Survey Services, AASA Land Surveyors.
Motion to ratify.
second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes,
Mr. Sefranco?
yes,
Recorder of Deeds, agenda number 25-245, renewal agreement with E-Image Data.
Motion approved and executed.
second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes,
Mr. Sefranco?
yes,
U.S. Senator Dave McCormick's congressionally directed spending program, agenda number 25-246 for Bridge number 4.
Motion to ratify.
second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes,
Mr. Sefranco?
yes.
Mr.
Thank you. Okay, item 25-247 under Agency on Aging, the preferred EAP Lehigh Valley Hospital and Health Network.
motion for approval and execution.
Second.
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes,
Mr. Sefranco?
Yes,
And for banner requests, we'll take all three at the same time. Items 25-248, 25-249, and 25-250.
Motion to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
For the Carbon County Industrial Development Authority, item 25-251.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
Item 25-252, Children and Youth, an agreement with the University of North Dakota.
Motion to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
The county parking lot, item 25-253, activities agreement.
Motion to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
For Josiah White Park, item 25-254, activities agreement, gazebo and banner request.
Motion to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
For the county parking lot, item 25-255, non-exclusive license agreement with Kyle Hoppus doing business as Crystal View Carriage Services.
Motion to approve and execute.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yeah.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
For the Tax Assessment Bureau, item 25-256, a tax refund.
Motion to approve payment.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
For the Tax Claim Bureau, item 25-257, resolution appointing Palmetto Posting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein.
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
Item 25-258, related resolution for posting.
Motion. to excuse.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
Nothing further for the solicitor's report.
Are we gonna go? for
Proclamation.
Proclamation. Proclamation, agenda number 25-233 for Emergency Medical Services Week.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
Just a few comments on that. A lot of times, I was hoping that some of them would be able to show up, but there is a shortage on emergency medical service personnel and paramedics, et cetera. For the public that didn't know, we have closed eight ambulance corps in Carbon County over the last several years. We are down to 4. Lehighton Ambulance took over Jim Thorpe's station. They took over Summit Hill Lansford Station and also Penn Forest when they folded. Others have folded, such as Nesquehoning. Now, those units have to come either out of Jim Thorpe or Summit Hill. They only have one unit there. They don't have enough paramedic units, so that is nothing but a delay of even 5 minutes can be too much time in the delayed response. Weatherly Borough, Packard Township appointed appropriately under their act that they have to appoint a responsible agency, and they picked Lehighton Ambulance. And now that ambulance has to come out of Jim Thorpe to Weatherly, which I believe is 11 minutes, and it's 13 minutes from Summit Hill, if someone is available. There's a major shortage. Again, recently, I was witness to a delayed in transportation of a patient from the hospital, a heart patient, possible heart patient at the time. And transportation was delayed quite a bit, a few hours, because there was no transport service available. They did go out of county to finally get a transport service. Another case, when my wife was in a hospital with an issue in the old hospital here in Lehighton, now the mental health unit with St. Luke's, she was in there. There was a patient beside of her in the ER. And they were waiting and trying to find a transport. All the ambulances were tied up in priorities. The doctor got so desperate as to having to call for a helicopter because he was afraid there would be a abdominal rupture. And he called for a helicopter. Now, there's a little bit of difference in price of, I don't know what a helicopter, somebody told me well over 50,000
yeah,
for a
yeah.
helicopter flight to Lehigh Valley. Transport by ground might even be 5,000. So it's becoming very critical, not only in this county. This county is in good shape compared to a lot of counties. I sat on the CCAP, County Commissioners Association, EMS task force, where in some of the counties, the response time was an hour. In some counties, they had gone up to 5 deep. When I'm saying 5 deep, they'll dispatch one, they don't get a response, they'll go to number 2, 3, 4, and finally till they get a 5th ambulance. When you're having a heart attack, you don't have that amount of time. So I know we did have a meeting yesterday with the Emergency Management and Veterans Affairs Committee. And again, it was a major topic, and it is a responsibility of the local municipalities to provide or ensure that their constituents have service. And I hate to say it, but some elected officials at the local level say that's not our responsibility. Yes, it is, sir or ma'am. It is your responsibility. So I would ask that you get out there, support your local emergency medical services. The hours we put in, and I didn't go into a lot of details on the prayers, but a lot of these calls that they go on are very traumatic. They are stressful. It affects them for a long time, and people get out of the service for those reasons. Same with the fire service. What they have to deal with occasionally is very difficult to deal with, and a lot of people turn to alcohol and develop other problems, and we lose people. And a lot of times they do end up in divorce, etc. So, thank them when you see them out there. Courtesy on the road when they're in an emergency. Try to move out of the way. Don't pull in front of them. But thank them when you see them. Thank them for their service because they're extremely busy. And I don't forget, we just did the report recently, how many thousands of calls they answer every year. And Lehighton even goes into Tamaqua. They go a lot, but now they even have some ambulance service over there as well because they don't have the ambulance service. They have move-up assignments. A lot of times they'll move up or down into the valley, Lehigh Valley, because they don't have enough. So it's not a Carbon County issue. It's a statewide issue. Slow pay, long hours. A lot of them work 24 on, 48 off, or 16-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, because they do have peak time. So I just wanted to mention a few of the issues that they face. Lack of funding. One other one that gripes me, the those that call for minor, some things, they've been sick for 3 days and all of a sudden they call an ambulance at 3 o'clock in the morning, or things that they could have been transported by car. The other one is insurance. They get the money from the insurance and they don't reimburse the ambulance. It's direct pay to the person who used the service. And they get the check, they're supposed to pay the ambulance, they don't pay the ambulance. So it gets awful expensive, for the ambulance. That's a law, one of the laws that the committee are trying to change, that they have, take away that direct pay, that it goes to the ambulance service. They get called out by the police a lot of times for evaluations. They don't get billed, they can't bill for that. They cannot bill going to a home for medical assist. Somebody, elderly person falls, spouse may be elderly, can't help them up. They get called for those things. So they're out there, they're busy and extremely overworked and underpaid. So that's it.
Yeah, and I just want to,
I go on forever.
no, but I just want to echo off of Wayne too. And it's like, people don't realize what our emergency people do for us. And if we would have to have a service in each town, if you would have to have paid firemen or paid ambulances, your taxes would be going up tremendous. I mean, you have big cities that have it like that, and it's devastating to the fire companies. I mean, you have to pay $1.5 million for a piece of equipment. You'd have to sell 2 million hoagies to pay for that piece of equipment. I mean, it's almost impossible for them to raise that much money. So, I mean, I'm a big advocate for that, whatever you can give. And like I said with Wayne, or what he said about the billing. I mean, when you get your, like, if you go to the doctor, your doctor bills and it comes to them. Why isn't it set up to the fire companies and ambulances like that? When you go to a call, if there's like an insurance claim, you know, the insurance, why doesn't it go to directly to them? Let them determine if there is, okay, you put in for $500, maybe they'll only pay for $350. You know, just like your Blue Cross and Blue Shield would be. And it would be so much easier to have it done like that.
I do want to mention one more thing, and it's exactly why Pocono Mountain Vacation Bureau contributed to Lehighton Ambulance and also the county, because they gave a breakdown of the cost of sitting here in the, because of the traffic and being able to get in and out of Jim Thorpe. They put a paramedic unit here with the incident command, and they're there for all 4 weekends. And they're paying 2 or more people to be there. They also have, I believe they have a quick response unit there as well. So they might have 3 or 4 people staged here in Jim Thorpe throughout those fall foliage weekends because of the traffic. So that's why we feel it was important that we reimburse them for that time and the cost of the salaries, the gas and insurance, all that stuff.
I would just like to say, thank you to all the EMS and first responders. Can't say enough about you and what all you do. The one thing I would like to bring up on that though is, you know, a number of years ago, Carbon County invested heavily into a EMA training center and fire tower. You know, you could go around the county at that time, or you could probably still today go around the county and ask people, was that investment worth it? And you might get a mixed reaction on that, depending what side of the table you're on. But over the last year, at least the last 2 months, I had the opportunity to be there for a major event, which was a forest fire that was taking place here in Jim Thorpe and down in the Franklin Township. And that forest fire, when you saw the state come in and not actually know where to set up, how to set up, where to go, and we were able to offer them that training center as their command post and their site, it was remarkable as to what they could do there. And the letters that we received praising Carbon County for how far advanced we are with that and how much more welcoming, but how much more access was given to them was something that I think every taxpayer should know. So when you question that, right there's where you invested in it and it paid off. But it also pays off in the fact that a lot of our local volunteer fire companies use that for training. And I'd ask you to continue to use that because, you know, when the state comes in, and they don't always come in, and thank God they don't have to, but when they come in and they put you at the top of their list, that makes you feel pretty good that there was some very good hindsight there, seeing what was coming. So I thank them all for that.
I don't know if it was mentioned last week, but when the state took over that incident on Saturday night, Sunday morning, the cost to the state was well over $500,000 at last count, and they're still totaling everything up because of the fixed wing aircraft. The helicopter dropped $600 a shot, $16,000 a day, I think it was, to have it parked here. I don't know what they get for the fixed wing anymore, but to feed 150 firefighters and pay them that are brought in from throughout the state. The incident management team that was here, the logistics and everything, people just tracking every little expense and what they did.
And if you look at that, a price of $500,000, I think, when you look at that, could you imagine passing that on to the volunteer firefighters at cost?
That freed the
It just-
firefighters up
it
to
just-
answer the other calls they had during the
So-
incident.
But with that, a thank you. And there are 4 proclamations here that I know we will get to those. Maybe they'll come in next meeting and get, I don't know. We will hold them and see what we can arrange. That's all.
Any business?
Not that I have.
Commissioners reports.
No, I used my 3 minutes.
No? Mr. Nosa?
We did enough.
Franco?
I did not use my 3.
Uh,
I just would tell everyone that, as you know, we meet bi-weekly here. We will not be back for our Memorial Day. So I'd like to wish everyone a very happy Memorial Day. And please do yourself a favor, get out there and remember those veterans, because that's the reason we're here. If it wasn't for those lives that were lost on Memorial, you know, remember that. Remember what it's great to go out and picnic. It's great to enjoy everything, but remember how we got there. The next thing I'd like to say, along Memorial Day, Mock Chunk Lake Park is going to be having some movie nights, so please watch the county website. Paying attention, they'll be having movie nights, I think, in May, June, July, and August. In the back to my left, Chris Barrett and Marlon are there. They have been through Pocono Mountain Vacation Bureau giving Mock Chunk Lake Park $50,000 a year over the last 3 years, I think, if I'm correct. The investment of that money, one is they're giving back to the visitors that are coming here, those who are using the lake. Some of that money that has been given has been paying for these movie nights, which is a great outreach. But it should be noted, they've also purchased new campfire grills. They've purchased new fire rings. They've purchased new picnic tables. They've purchased some new signage. And they have improved the bathrooms, all through that money that has been given through Pocono Mountain. So I thank them for that while they're here. But it should be noted that the park is open. Dave is ready for everybody. We're all out there and ready to go. But there has been a lot of improvements done, not only, and that was all through the park maintenance staff and those that we can, but Pocono Mountain Vacation Bureau should be thanked for that because they gave us a shot in the arm that we needed there desperately to get some money and do some different things out at the lake. So get out and enjoy the lake also. That's all I have. Anything else? Meeting adjourned. We will move to the election board.
But I do want to say thank you to Marlon and to Chris from White Sport Event Committee. We appreciate everything you guys have done for us. Thank you. All right. We need to approve the minutes from the election board meeting held on April 17th, 2025.
I'm just trying to think, was I at that? I
Yes.
was, okay, because I know I missed one.
According to the minutes.
Okay, motion approved.
Second,
Mr. Arner?
Yes.
Mr. Notstein?
yes.
Mr. Sifranco?
Yes.
Any guests concerning election board business? No. Any election board business?
Only thing I would mention is please watch the county webpage for updates on elections. Watch it for what's happening at the election office. The election office is open this Saturday from
8 to 12.
8 to
He
12.
was gonna say
I was gonna say, I was gonna say 7, so I want to be sure.
8 to 12.
8 to 12. So please come in and pay attention to that. And as we had said, we do not have early voting. We have,
No,
what is it called now?
it's called on-demand voting.
On-demand voting. That's the new word coming out from the
The
state.
state.
Don't even ask.
That hasn't changed any way we vote. It's just, we never really truly had what is called early voting, but it is called on-demand voting. I'll let you speak to Jen afterward and she can explain. So you know,
It's easy.
it's the same thing
It's a
we've always
mail-in.
been doing. It's just, they want to call it on-demand.
And you don't get it instantly. You don't vote, you vote that day on a mail. I'll just quick explain it.
Go ahead.
1 minute.
Go ahead. Okay, you
It's a
four.
mail-in.
Gonna
You
help.
come in, you ask for a mail-in. We do your application. Well, we can't do it anymore because the deadline's over. It was over on Tuesday. So you give us the application, we process the application. It takes about 40 minutes for us to receive state verification that we can give you one. And then we give it to you, you vote, you seal it up, you hand it to us. That will be opened up on election day. It's not early voting. We're not getting your vote and putting it into the machine, the tabulator to make sure that your vote's in there. It's done on election day. So that's on demand. It's a mail-in. It's a mail-in.
Another word.
Yes. Any other further?
And that's all I have.
I told you it was gonna be easy. Adjourned, 11:19.
Meeting adjourned. Next, we have our retirement board. And we have Sarah Wilson with us today. Sarah should get a big round of applause here because in these trying times, as the economy goes up, goes down, tariffs go in, tariffs go out, that she has done a fine job in managing us and keeping us where we need to be, especially when you're paying out over $500,000 a month in pension needs. So I think that's a pretty big number for a small county. So Sarah, Kayla, you're up.
Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting held April 17th, 2025.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Zelinka,
Yes.
Mrs. Herman, yes. Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
Any guests concerning retirement board business? Hearing none. Report of executive sessions. There was one on April 30th, 2025 at 2 p.m. A motion to ratify warrant checks number 41166 to 41174 and direct deposit number 7031607 to 7032034.
Motion ratify.
Second.
Mr. Zelinka,
Yeah. Yes.
Mrs. Herman, yes. Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yeah.
Mr. Sefranco.
Yes.
Retirement activity for April. There were 2 retirement refunds, 2 superannuation retirements, 1 death benefit, and 1 deceased. On behalf of the retirement board, we send our condolences to the family of Marlene Catalick. Disbursements for April, monthly benefits, $514,926.72. Death benefits, $45,779.92. Refunds, $3,252.19 for a total, nope. We reimbursed the retirement expenses for 2024. That was $248,637.70. So the total disbursements for April was $812,596.53. Portfolio value as of April 30th was $89,431,351.45. There was no correspondence received, solicitors report, anything on your end?
No report.
And we have Sarah with us from Marquette.
And I have to tell you, you have 3 minutes. No.
Somebody last week told me I've got 10, so I can do it pretty fast. All right. Good morning. It's nice to see everybody. And I did pass out the chart of the week, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. This is, all you're hearing is tariffs in this market and how it has driven this market up and how it's driven the market down. And the chart that I gave you, this article is very interesting because it shows the impact on the equity performance on tariffs and non-tariffs. So when you look at the impact of tariffs on equity performance, we look and we can see that gray line, and you can see it's right back to 0. It went through, and you can see it dropped on April 1st. Remember March, and then beginning of April, we saw the market drastically take a real hit. And then we've seen it come back up, but then we know tariff exposed is still about 14%. That's going to have an effect on equity performance, and that's a negative 14% right now. I just thought interesting when you look at tariff insulated companies, Levi Strauss, McDonald's, Domino's, and Ulta Beauty have all in the last couple of years have outsourced differently domestically and are not relying on some of those imports coming in. So, while you see some companies that are going to really get hammered if the tariffs really go into place, you're also going to see some companies that aren't. So it's just kind of stand back and wait, and we'll talk a little bit more about what the tariffs have done with inflation, where the Fed's going in the report. So we turn to Exhibit 2. So. Okay, so we look at the market right now, and we look at U.S. real GDP growth, and we know that it declined at an annualized pace of 0.30. This marked the first negative performance since 2022. And then net exports were a large drag on growth. And then consumer spending, meanwhile, has accelerated from the fourth quarter, but topped economic forecasts. What does that mean? And we'll look at this. The consumer is still spending. No matter what is going on with prices, you still have consumer spending. Eventually, that is going to stop. When we look at consumer and CEO confidence at the bottom of there, you can see the graph. I think what's really interesting is when you look at that, you look at consumer CEO confidence and look, we go back to COVID, the first quarter 2020, you can see that real drop that they didn't have as much confidence. And what does that mean? That means they're looking at earnings, they're looking at hiring. We know that Microsoft this week announced that they are laying off 3% of their workforce. That could be possibly with AI as well coming in and taking some of those jobs over. But in April, non-farm payrolls added 177,000. I just think to be mindful that when you look at CEO confidence, they may have more of a perspective than the consumer when it comes to where the market is. Okay, when we look at page 11, we look at what's happening on there, and we talk about CPI rose 0.2%, and year over year, it's looking at 2.8%. So it's starting to go down. And then we look at what's happening with the Fed, and the Fed just keeps changing. It changes every day when we come out with hearing about news. So the Fed came out, and we thought at the beginning of this year, possibly for maybe 5, but we thought the market thought that there was going to be a good 4 cuts. Well, then in March, they held off. Then they came out this last week and said, we're not going to raise. And then they came out with that, and they said, look, we are probably not going to look at changing, lowering these until the end of June. They have just come out and said, nope, we will probably look at September and possibly 2 cuts. So that has had, and the reason why is they're standing back and they're looking at what's going to happen with tariffs. And tariffs, we know if there's more tariffs, there's more inflation. Even though they're almost close to their 2% inflation gauge, the Fed's saying, look, where there's so much uncertainty in this market, we are not going to do anything. Now, what does that mean? Obviously, that means for the consumer, we look at, going out and getting mortgages. We'll talk a little bit about that, but it's more, right now, if you look at it, it's about 4.3%, the lending rate on the Fed rate. What is happening, though, is that when we saw some of those rate cuts, we saw small and growth companies accelerate, do well, because small companies, small cap companies, mid cap companies, they all need to borrow to be, to grow. And when you look at large cap companies, large cap value companies, they already have the cash or they'll issue corporate bonds. That really had an effect last year on small and mid cap performance, meaning it was a lot more solid. That's probably going to have an effect now. And the Fed is still going in with that inflation gauge. But then when we look at the consumer, at 1.4 trillion 12 months ago and credit card debt, which is probably going up and up and up. It's not going down. So right now we're on the verge of them making some changes. We're hoping that the Fed would have cut in June. They may still come back. But right now the projection, and it changes every time we do this chart. Like every week it changes. So right now we're seeing that they're probably going to maybe possibly cut in September, but we are not going to see those new near zero rates that we saw in 2020. Those days are possibly gone for a very long time. If we go to the next page, we look at what's happening. Europe's interesting, and this you'll see has will have an effect on your performance because you're so well diversified. Germany, for the first time, approved a 500 billion spending package, which is very historic for them, 500 billion euro. And that's really going to improve Germany's outlook, which is a driving force in there. When we look at the total exports at the bottom of page 12, interestingly enough, we look at the highly leveraged to the U.S. trade and Mexico and Canada. Canada will have an effect if we don't get these tariffs, if they are in place and what they're going to say they're going to do. Remember, Canada is one of our largest suppliers of lumber. And when we look at that, we know what happened when you couldn't get it during the COVID years and how lumber spiked, how buildings spiked. So that is the one thing that will really have an effect, because you can't grow trees in a year. So, that's what's going to happen there. But interestingly enough, with the, look at Japan and China. China's only 15% leveraged. When we talk about the global asset class performance, we talk about, look at US equities, we're down 4.7, but then we go look at where you are. Everything else, and this is what has done very nicely for performance, is positive. And we look at emerging markets, we look at commodities. Obviously, commodities were very strong this quarter because gold was very strong. And then we look at listed infrastructure, which you've gone into. We'll look at those numbers, but they're an inflation hedge. So that has done very well for you. US REITs, we know that we have started to fund more into real estate. We feel that real estate, and this is institutional real estate. This isn't the average real estate, the individual. Real estate actually has taken their hits. They have gone in there, even with a little bit of lower rates, they're starting to buy again. And they basically wrote off their office space, or they're filling office space nationally through turning them into apartments. Like if you look at downtown Pittsburgh, it's only 20% of office space is rented, but a lot of those buildings are now getting turned into rentals. And we know this next generation is rentals. I mean, that is really where we've seen that growth. It's not going to go out. And the housing market still, you probably have noticed locally, it hasn't really gone down that much. And you would think it would. It probably is going to stay steady unless there's something drastic that happens. But, the 20-year-olds are now going out and they would prefer to rent. That's nationally. So that's where they're making a lot of money. The institutional, they're building massive of rental homes, townhouses, etc. If you turn the page, you go look at US equities, you go look at consumer discretionary, obviously down 13%. Information technology is down 12.9%. And what's happened is a low-cost Chinese AI model is now a threat to the big manufacturers. So you look at information technology. And what we've also seen is that Magnificent Seven is starting to go back a little bit and not driving the market as much. They're still at the bottom of page 14. You can see they're at 49% of shares derived from outside the U.S. on the Magnificent Seven. But we're looking at what's going to happen is those mega caps, those seven, are not going to be so much of a driver in the next couple of years. And why I say that is important is because when you compare the manager to the benchmark in the last 18 months, there's going to be a gap because they're not just holding those seven stocks. So usually when you're going down, you're probably going to be better on the benchmark. Going up, some of your managers might find it tough. And then we talk about the S&P 500. The S&P 500 on Tuesday was finally in positive territory, but there was a point that the S&P 500 in April was approaching the median post-World War II price decline in early April. Which meaning that when you look at that, you could possibly be looking at a recession. Right now, we're not thinking there's going to be a recession. Some economists do. I think it's sit back and wait until they show what is going to happen with all the tariffs. We know there's a pause on tariffs right now for 90 days. Tariffs usually, if it comes down, it was about a 24% average what these tariffs were going to do on imports. If some of the negotiations happen, it's going to go to possibly an average of 13%. So you are going to see prices going up with these tariffs in place. And you will also see what's happened is many companies are starting to stockpile. So that means inflation, and inflation when it goes up. So with that, we're just going to sit back. The one thing I want to keep in mind is that every day, if you're watching this market, it's a large part is media driven, meaning that something happens, media comes out and says, there's going to be all these tariffs on China. Next thing we know, that market just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. Then they came back over the weekend, and this is a very good example, and said, they've reached an agreement for 90 days, market's up 1,000 points. What we need to also look is under that, you take tariffs off the table, you need to look at where earnings are. You need to look at what's going to happen with borrowing, what's going to happen with the American consumer. So you do have a hard market in the next 18 to 24 months, and it's going to be where the tariffs take effect. And remember, they always say old administration, still first 2 years of new administration, their policies are still kind of, in fact, they might be unwound. And then the next 2 years, you'll start to see the policies of this current administration kick in. The one thing to keep in mind is there will always be government spending. But last year, I think we had a graph in the quarterly report that said the majority of the economy right now is being held up by government spending. They're not going to cut government spending down to zero. Some of the things that they're saying they're going to cut, they possibly will cut, relook at it, and then put it back in. But if you're going to see a lag in government spending, or not as much as government spending, you're also going to see that that's going to have an effect on the economy as well until they sort those things out. So going forward, it's probably going to be a very rocky ride. Are there any questions on the market? All right. Let's go to the next exhibit. I'm getting better at this. All right. So as of March, the portfolio was 90 million. You actually had a gain. And I think if you look at some of your counterparts, other counties, that was very good. You had a gain of 218,000 when the market was negative. And then for the trailing 1 year, March to March, you had a gain of 5.7% with a net investment gain of 5.1. And this is very important. Since inception, you've annualized 8.8. You have met your actuarial assumption and have had a gain of 90.2 million. Positive for the quarter was Artisan and Dodge and Cox, defensive equity and infrastructure. Some of U.S. equities were negative. And then what we did was, remember, Artisan was very struggling. They were really struggling versus their benchmark. We still like them. They were they were the number one manager in their space. They've just had a hard time. But we thought about it and we thought, you know what, we're going to reduce it down to 2.5%, and we're going to add in new global manager, WCM. They're going to put in a CIT for us, which will also bring down the cost of that. Right now, we went into the mutual fund. We decided that in an afternoon and moved it ahead. When we looking ahead, we'll talk a little bit about that, is actuarial services. And if we go to, are there any questions so far? All right, let's go to page 31. All right, let's look there. You can see that even though you had some managers not do as well, your equity composite was down 1% versus 1.6. And I do want to say that your entire fund composite for the quarter was positive 0.2% and your benchmark was negative 0.3. And that's exactly what we have designed this portfolio to do, to really protect you in the down market. Might not outperform the benchmark in an up market, but it's the down market. Because remember, if you go down, it's going to be double up to get back there. GWK has just suffered a little bit, small mid-cap equities, and they have actually done really well, but this is the snapshot of where we're looking at them. We put them in June 20, but they've annualized 9.8 versus 10.6. If you turn the page, you can look at your global equity for the 3 months. It was 1.6 versus the benchmark of a negative 1.3, so it had some outperformance. Artisan has come back a little bit for the quarter, negative 4.4 versus negative 6.9. MFS and low volatility. And remember, when we look at a manager, you've got to look 3, 5, 7, 10 years. You can't really judge a manager in a year. The only way we judge a manager is if portfolio managers leave. If they deviate from what they're supposed to be doing, then we'll just get rid of them. So we look at it more what they have done long-term. And you can see MFS for 3 years has done 8.5 versus 5.6. And within those 5 years, we also had a negative year. And then you can see 5 years, they've done 13.3 versus 9.7. So they're right on target. They just had a tough quarter. WCM Focus Global Growth, which we think is a nice play. We just added them into there, and it's just where they were since inception. We ended them in the middle of March. They were down 5.9 versus 4.0, but they've only had 3 weeks of performance. So it was just a snapshot there. But they will protect in the down market. They are very much more concentrated than Artisan, and we believe that working together, they will have some nice performance. Non-US equity composite was again outperformed the market, and you can see Fidelity Total International Index 5.6 versus 4.6. DFA, it's just where they are. Remember, we just put them in. They even haven't had a year. We like them. They're a good core equity portfolio. You just have to remember we've had such a volatile market. You go to page 33. Defensive equity for the trailing 12 months is down 7.7 versus 6.8. It's right on the market. Real estate has done well for you. For 3 months, it's done 1.2 versus 8. 1 year, 1.8 versus 1.2. And since inception, 4.6 versus 2.6. They've outperformed the benchmark. But I think what's really important to remember in those 7 years where we've seen the real estate market go, the institutional, which we talked about, 2020, they got absolutely hammered there. But you have to remember, we funded half of them with fixed income. And they actually are they pay a nice dividend, and they took some of the volatility out of the market. Infrastructure has done very well for you. You can see that you have done for the quarter 3.2 versus 2.1, for the year 10.8 versus 5.5. And since we've put them in January 2023, they've annualized 8.3 versus 6.5. They are a great inflation hedge, and it was a good decision to put those in. And you can see right now, infrastructure, if you go over and look at all the way at the end, percent of portfolio and policy, you can see that real estate 7.8 versus 10%. We are fine with that. We are actually allowed to go 0 to 10% in your investment IPS. It's just so we can pull it out or put it in because of that. And right now you're at a good space there. We took some off the table and then we're just watching it. But you can see that infrastructure is over 1.6. You've got a 0 to 10% on your IPS. We are not going to take anything off the table right now. We'll look at that. And one of the things is that you have so much cash coming out every month. You know, we are selling every month. Usually you sell in the quarter and kind of leave it there. We could discuss doing that. We could also discuss maybe getting in a manager for cash management, which might give you a little bit more on what cash is we're going to return. So that is something that we should probably think about down the road. And I'll get that together. You can see that Seas McKee was right on the market since inception, since July 09. So for that amount of time, fixed income has only annualized 2.4%. So that was some of the things that you have done as a board over the course of the last few years. You've gone into real estate, you've gone into infrastructure, you've gone into defensive equity, you've lowered your equity position, and that has done very well for you. And then Baird Core Plus Fund has done well, a little bit off for the 3 months, but for the 1 year, 5.4 versus 4.9. Since we put them in June 2022, they did 2.8 versus 1.7. So all in all, I think you're in a very good position. You know, it's been a hard couple of months, a hard like last 6 months, because always fourth quarter, we expect to be positive, and we know the market was negative because after the election, it had its ride the day after, and then it kind of eased back. And the word, I mean, we're going to consistently hear tariffs. So it's just kind of sit back, watch what happens, but well diversified, and you're in a good spot. Are there any questions? Right, well, thank you. Always nice to come to Carbon County.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
New business, Foster and Foster for actuary. I'd like to make a motion to provide Corn Ferry with a 60 days notice to terminate.
I'll second that.
Mr. Zelenka,
Yes.
Mrs. Herman, yes. Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein.
Yeah.
And Mr. Sifranco.
Yes.
I'd like to also make a second motion, to hire Foster and Foster for actuarial services.
Second.
Mr. Zelenka,
Yes.
Mrs. Herman, yes. Mr. Arner,
Yes.
Mr. Notstein,
Yes.
and Mr. Sifranco.
Yes.
Anything for further business? Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. Very good. Starts needed this week, aren't we? Amy? Good morning.
Retirement board, why did you terminate?
The,
On personnel, you have 3 hires for lifeguards. How are you guys doing on the lifeguard?
and at the last meeting, which I was there last Friday, we're doing fine. Obviously, we're always looking for more. We should be fine with the lifeguards through the summer. Where it gets very touchy is come August. Because a lot of the lifeguards go back to college and back to school. So that's where we're working on making sure we get the proper coverage we need for August. But for right now, we're okay.
Okay.
We can always use more. And then last year, if you remember, we did add additional lifeguarding positions so that we weren't one in, one out. There are extras there, and I'm pretty sure most of those are full for the year. But we're always willing to take more.
Thank you. Commissioner Notstein, you said about the 4 ambulances that were left. I know one's Mahoning. What are the other 3?
Lehighton, Mahoning, Lake Harmony, and Pomeroy.
Thank you. Was the cause of the Jimthorpe fire ever determined? Do you guys know that?
Still under investigation as far as we know.
For the prison food, Aramark did not provide the scaled.
They did, but
They
they were higher on the price.
Okay. Commissioner Arner, why did you vote no on Catherine Clunker's?
I think it's time for a change, and I think we have to get more people on there because the open space was to preserve water, and I think we need more people going in that direction.
With the cameras you're purchasing for the train station and the parking booth, there are currently no cameras there? Or are there?
There's not enough. There's a couple over there. The clarity is not good enough. We need to get better coverage in certain areas. Well, it's a matter of security and other reasons, like I said, about people falling. So yeah, that's why we're looking at additional cameras for security.
And I know that that action was tabled, the last meeting. Why was that tabled previously?
Because there was concerns as to, we wanted to make sure that they were for security purposes only. And there was possibly the adding of some computer lines and everything like that, and that we didn't necessarily need in part of that proposal. So this is what we wanted for, which is the security and, you know, when obviously in case of some fall, we don't need wiring for hard computers.
Thank you. And then may I just get copies of the proclamation as well as correspondence from Jake Nowitzki and the DEP Beltsville one?
Very good. You're good. Go back.
He left. No. Well, I think I don't know. And people have different views on different things. And I had a different thought of how the open space was gonna run. And I think, and I don't want to go back to this sludge thing, but so, and I keep going back to it, that we have to keep an open eye on what sludge is being used, because I mean, there's actually people that work in here that talk to me, you know, throughout the county, that they're near the sludge and they don't really want to complain about it. I think we have to get a hold on that. In fact, Linda was here, always gives information to us. And the other day I got some information that there was a place, not from her, but from another source, that there was a farm, 10,000 acre farm in Texas, that it got into the milk and eggs and they had to close it down. And it's not that, like, our letter that we sent to Governor or to Governor Shapiro was more or less to keep an eye on and give us more documentation. And if they come out right now, it says it's proved that it's okay, but I don't think there's enough documentation, because we've always checked with Penn State and they always say, yeah, it's okay. Just like the same thing with down in Palmerton, where they did all that fill. You ask DEP and they'll say, yeah, it's okay, but they don't really give you the documentation, what's in that, you know, and that's all we're looking for. If they come on and say it's fine, then it's fine. But I just don't want it to get to the point that we preserve properties and take this $10 million that the public voted for. And what happens if some of these places cannot be used for trails or playgrounds? And that's my only point. But, and I still go back to it. I think we have a lot of people that are on boards, and I think they're just on too long. And it's time to get fresh faces in with fresh ideas, because things change over the years. You know, like I said, with me, I'll be a commissioner for 8 years and that's it for me. I think it's time for somebody to move on and try something a little bit different. But I think as these committees, and if you see the committees, it's almost like the same people on all the committees. Like, why is that? You know, fresh faces are better.
Disagree, disagree, because he said too long. She's only been on the board for what, less than 2 years,
But
2 years?
again, Wayne, she is one that is pushing for biosolids. She's on a committee, she works at the state level, and she's pushing for biosolids. And every time you try something, there's a pushback about it. And all we're doing is asking a question, what's in it?
Well,
That's
and
all.
she-
And everybody in the county, all the farmers, there's probably 5 farmers in the county that are using it. And all the other farmers are like I am. I come from a farm, and I tell you what, my father would be rolling in his grave if we would have used biosolids on our farm. We raised fruit. We've raised over 2,000 baskets of fruit a year, and did all this stuff. We raised strawberries, you know, and the documentation, when these farms are closing up and it's getting into that, all I'm asking for, go to the state. Why is DEP? I always thought DEP was a national organization. Evidently, each state DEP has its own rules. Because how did they close that farm down in Texas? How did they close the one down? I think there was one in Connecticut, but we can't do nothing in Pennsylvania about it. And I tell you what, there's farms using it near the Beltsville Dam, and there's farms using it near the Lehigh and Lizard Creek, where it runs down to Lehigh. We're different going all the way down to Lehigh. There are communities that are taking water out of there. So now they have to treat that water, and it's getting treated good enough. And I just need verification on it. And that's all that Linda's letter was, to ask for verification. She did not come in here and say, we want everything shut down. Maybe in the beginning of that, but now they're trying at a different aspect to it. Why don't you give us the documentation? And that's all I'm asking for.
Comfort did not oppose that further testing or anything. What they are doing is legal until DEP changes those rules. I feel that it is no reason to remove someone from a board just because you have a different opinion or disagree with something is no real reason. If they were doing something illegal or other issues or disrupting the meeting and that, I would disagree with that, Mr. Honor, that's no reason to disappear, remove someone. I think she brings a different perspective to the board, and that's what we want on a board is diversity from different backgrounds, different perspectives. So they do not oppose the testing of the biosolids. They also support the further investigation of it. So they're doing nothing wrong.
I mean, it's self-explanatory. You have two people disagree. The reason, and I'll tell you that, the reason I went with it is, I see both sides of this. I really do. But the reality comes down to the Open Space Board sent us a letter recommending reappointment for those two people. And we constantly sit here and I both may disagree with me on this, but we sit here all the time and we say people don't volunteer, people don't get involved, the community doesn't care. And then we appoint people to boards and the people that sit up here or whoever may be here don't want to listen to them. Well, that's maybe why people don't get involved. Sometimes you got to go out on a limb and you got to monitor it. And if there's a problem, as Mr. Arner says here, we'll address it. If there's not a problem, then we'll address Mr. Notstein's. But the reality is, when boards make recommendations, sometimes, and that's how I look at it, you got to listen to that recommendation and believe in those people that are there every day, debating back and forth and follow it. So we got a letter from them. They didn't recommend any changes. They didn't ask for any changes. They simply submitted those two names back. And they're right to disagree on that. But I'm not going to ask someone to serve on a board and then tell them that I'm not going to listen to their recommendation at least. So that's my take on it. Anything else?
Next question.
Oh, come on, give us a question. You can settle it all down. Is the sun going to come out this weekend? Yes, Sunday. So anything else? With that, that's all. Enjoy. Thank you all. We got a lot done here in an hour and a half.